And we are back for prepping for winter with the second Tyrion sample chapter. The Battle of Fire has begun, and Tyrion is taking in all of the chaos around him. Barristan and the Marine forces have exited the city to the east, and Victarion and the Ironborn forces have come ashore to the west, leaving the Yunkish and the Sellsword companies in between. Trebuchets are firing dead bodies, dragons are flying through the air, and everyone is preparing for battle. And all of it fills Tyrion with dread. And so let's continue. Tyrion found himself thinking back on his first battle. Shae had been the first to stir, woken by his father's trumpets. The sweet strumpet who'd pleasured him for half the night had trembled naked in his arms, a frightened child. Or was that all a lie as well, a ploy she used to make me feel brave and brilliant? What a mummer she might have been. When Tyrion had shouted for Podrick Payne to help him with his armor, he'd found the boy asleep and snoring. Not the quickest lad I've ever known, but a decent squire in the end. I hope he's found a better man to serve. And so here we get a very interesting shift in the battles that the Battle of Fire parallels, with the incoming sea force colliding on the river, the decoy ship, the catapults shooting naked men into the air, and the threat of deadly fire everywhere. We cannot help but think of the Battle of the Blackwater when looking at the Battle of Fire. The parallels are overwhelming. And yet Tyrion thinks of the Battle of the Green Fork, and so maybe we should too. The Battle of the Green Fork was a trap that Stark forces didn't fall into. We should be keeping our eyes peeled for what trap lurks on the battlefield. Now, Tyrion's mind goes to Shae, who he notes pretended to be a frightened child. As it happens, the frightened child is Tyrion's type. He has a pattern, whether it be Tysha, Shae, or Sansa. Tyrion likes to think himself some sort of savior for women. By his own words, they make him feel brilliant and brave, and Tyrion thinks about what a fantastic mummer Shae was. Of course, we have a fourth woman in Tyrion's life who, once again, plays the role of a frightened child, Penny. And this line calling Shae a mummer is quite ironic, as Penny is a literal mummer. She performs for a living. Now I will say Tyrion's memory of Shae is off. Shae never trembled in Tyrion's arms, at least not the morning of the Battle of the Green Fork. No, that morning she shook Tyrion awake when the trumpet sounded, and he, quite alarmed, jumped up and started barking orders at her. This idea of him holding a trembling, frightened child as if he's comforting her is pure fantasy. Tyrion is either inventing things or blending other memories with this morning with Shae. He may be remembering Tysha, who he remembers trembling when he first kissed her, or he may be remembering Penny, who came to his cabin on the Selsori Quran frightened, and they were thrown together. Regardless, as readers, we are clearly supposed to compare the women of Tyrion's life, as he is clearly conflating them. Now we do get a little bit on Podrick Payne, Tyrion's former squire. Tyrion's memory of Podrick is accurate. He did find him snoring when he looked for him to help with his armor. The joke here, of course, is that Podrick is now not serving a better man, but a better woman. It was queer, but Tyrion remembered the Green Fork much better than the Blackwater. It was my first. You never forget your first. He remembered the fog drifting off the river, wending through the reeds like pale white fingers, and the beauty of that sunrise. He remembered that as well. Stars strewn across a purple sky, the grass glittering like glass with the morning dew, red splendor in the east. He remembered the touch of Shae's fingers as she helped Pod with Tyrion's mismatched armor, that bloody helm, like a bucket with a spike. That spike had saved him, though, had won him his first victory. But Groden Penny had never looked half as silly as he must have looked that day. Shae had called him fearsome when she saw him in his steel, mind you. How could I have been so blind, so deaf, so stupid? I should have known better than to be thinking with my cock. So here Tyrion thinks it odd that he is reminded of the Green Fork rather than the Blackwater. Now, interestingly, the Blackwater hasn't actually been brought up by Tyrion until now. At least not directly. Yes, there is a ship battle on the river, a decoy ship, catapulted naked men, the fire, but Tyrion has not overtly said that the two battles are similar. Now, Tyrion makes the statement, "You never forget your first," and this of course has a double meaning. Yes, Tyrion will not forget the Green Fork, but he's naturally also talking about sex. This is the more famous meaning of "you never forget your first," and this means Tyrion is thinking about Tysha. But almost immediately after bringing up Tysha, Tyrion starts talking about Shae. Once again, we have a conflation and blending of Tyrion's women in his mind, just as we have a conflation of Tyrion's battles in his mind. Tyrion then goes into some memories of the Battle of the Green Fork. There was dew on the grass, a brilliant sunrise to the east, fog to the west. Though back in A Game of Thrones, the imagery of fingers actually comes from the sunrise, not from the fog. Pod and Shae did help Tyrion with his armor, though at the time we had no sense that he was being enamored by Shae's touch. Tyrion mentions that his spiked helm helped save him, though it should be noted that the helm helped him be saved from capture, not from death, as the knight who faced him wanted him to yield. And then, smack dab in the middle of the passage, Penny makes an appearance. Tyrion once again connecting his women. We actually go from Tysha to Shae to Penny in one paragraph. Now Tyrion ends the passage by saying that he was thinking with his cock, but that's not really his problem. With each of Tyrion's women, he's not so much looking for sex as he's looking for someone to protect and take care of. And that's what he's a sucker for, the sob story. And this is actually the thing that makes Tyrion vulnerable to Penny. Because Tyrion doesn't find Penny too attractive, he likely thinks himself safe from manipulation. The second sons were saddling their horses. They went about it calmly, unhurriedly, efficiently. It was nothing they hadn't done 100 times before. A few of them were passing a skin from hand to hand, though whether it was wine or water he could not say. Bakoko was kissing his lover shamelessly, kneading the boy's buttocks with his huge hand, the other tangled in his hair. Behind them, Sir Garibald was brushing out the mane of his big gelding. Chem sat on a rock, gazing at the ground, remembering his dead brother, perhaps, or dreaming of that friend back in King's Landing. Hammer and Nail moved from man to man, checking spears and swords, adjusting armor, putting an edge on any blade that needed it. So next we hear of some of the second sons that Tyrion will be fighting alongside with. This is the first time we hear of Bakoko or Sir Garibald. Bakoko is making out with a boy prostitute in the company, something we are told of when Tyrion picks out his armor. And Tyrion is likely wearing at least some armor of a dead prostitute. Hammer and Nail make an appearance. Hammer is the armorer and Nail his apprentice. This is actually the first time we see Hammer not passed out drunk. Tyrion's previous interaction with Nail is not very noteworthy. The apprentice simply offered Tyrion any armor he could find. Chem is the character that we hear most from in A Dance with Dragons, and he is certainly a character that Tyrion should watch out for. So Chem fought in the Battle of the Blackwater for Stannis, and we know Chem lost his brother and likely his friend in this battle. But here's the thing. Chem says his brother died on the Bridge of Ships, and it seems likely that Chem would be fighting near his brother. Not to mention, Chem knows that his brother died on the Bridge of Ships, meaning he likely saw it. Of course, Tyrion was also on the Bridge of Ships during the Battle of the Blackwater, so it seems quite likely that Chem was near Tyrion in the battle. In fact, Chem actually calls Tyrion Half-Man, a nickname for Tyrion that was being screamed during the conflict. On top of this, Chem says he lost his spear during the battle and ran, while Tyrion mysteriously picked up a spear. The point being, it seems quite likely that Chem and Tyrion were in close proximity to each other during the Battle of the Blackwater. Of course, this makes one wonder. Did Tyrion kill Chem's friend or Chem's brother? Did Balon Swan or Mandon Moore or anyone else following Tyrion kill them? Keep in mind, when Tyrion looked at the Bridge of Ships and famously said, "Those are brave men, let's go kill them," he was talking about men that included Chem's brother and likely Chem's friend. Did Chem see Tyrion in battle? Does he blame him for his brother and his friend's death? Even ignoring the actual fighting on the ships, it was Tyrion's idea for the chain and the wildfire, which created the hell that Chem's brother died in. And even ignoring the idea that Chem and Tyrion may have crossed paths before, Chem specifically says that he doesn't like Tyrion's father, harboring a grudge against him from Robert's Rebellion, an event before Chem could even remember. Not to mention, Chem says that he heard all Lannisters were snakes, and we should remember that Chem fought for Stannis, despite being from King's Landing. So all in all, it seems pretty darn likely that Chem doesn't like Tyrion. And we should also remember what happened to Tyrion at the Bridge of Ships. He was betrayed by his brother-in-arms, Mandon Moore. Tyrion may be heading into battle again with an untrustworthy companion. Of course, it's always possible that maybe Chem wasn't near the Bridge of Ships and was unaware of Tyrion's role in the battle and heard the nickname Half-Man from somewhere else. Who knows? It could be that our author is just setting up some irony for Chem to die on the new Bridge of Ships created by the Ironborn in order to give him the same fate as his brother. Snatch chewed his sour leaf, making japes and scratching at his balls with his hook hand. Something about his manner reminded Tyrion of Bronn. Sir Bronn of the Blackwater now, unless my sisters killed him. That might not be so simple as she thinks. He wondered how many battles these second sons had fought. How many skirmishes, how many raids, how many cities have they stormed, how many brothers have they buried or left behind to rot. Compared to them, Tyrion was a green boy, still untested, though he had counted more years than half the company. So here Tyrion spots Snatch, a company sergeant, and thinks he's similar to Bronn. It's not really certain in what manner the two are similar. Bronn has 2 good hands and doesn't chew sour leaf, and from what we've seen of Snatch, he seems much more vulgar and less clever than Bronn. Nonetheless, Tyrion sees something, and we are once again reminded of the Blackwater through Bronn's title, though Bronn also fought at the Battle of the Green Fork. Tyrion briefly wonders about Bronn's fate and guesses correctly that Cersei would try to kill him and would have difficulty. As we know in A Feast for Crows, Cersei tells Felice Stokeworth and her husband Balman to take care of Bronn in a hunting mishap, but Balman instead challenges Bronn to single combat and Balman is killed. After Felice is murdered by Qyburn, Bronn's wife Lolys ends up inheriting Stokeworth, and Bronn starts calling himself Lord Stokeworth. Tyrion then starts comparing himself to the Second Sons and admits that he's only a green boy despite being older than most of the company. Tyrion, by the way, is only 27. This is actually a rather humble moment for Tyrion, as Tyrion has seen quite a few adventures, has evaded death quite a number of times, and has seen quite a bit of death. From the attack on the High Road, to his trial by battle, to the Battle of the Green Fork, to the riot of King's Landing, to the Battle of the Blackwater, to the Purple Wedding, to his second trial by battle, to the attack by the Stone Men, to his capture by Jorah, to the attack by Penny, to surviving the storm, to his capture by slavers, to nearly being eaten by lions. It's been a rough journey. But still, this all doesn't compare to the experiences of the Second Sons who make a living in battle. This would be his third battle. Seasoned and bloodied, stamped and sealed, a proven warrior, that's me. I've killed some men and wounded others, taken wounds myself and lived to tell of them. I've led charges, heard men scream my name, cut down bigger men and better, even had a few tastes of glory. And wasn't that a fine, rich wine for heroes? And wouldn't I like another taste? Yet with all he'd done and all he'd seen, the prospect of another battle made his blood run cold. He had traveled across half the world by palanquin, poleboat, and pig, sailed in slave ships and trading galleys, mounted whores and horses, all the time telling himself that he did not care whether he lived or died, only to find that he cared quite a lot after all. So here Tyrion speaks of the Battle of Fire being his third battle, after the Battle of the Green Fork and the Battle of the Blackwater. It seems Tyrion doesn't count all of the other fights he's been in, like on the High Road or with the Stone Men. Tyrion then sarcastically thinks that he is a proven warrior, metaphorically stamped and sealed. Of course, much time in Ice and Fire has been given to the description of seals and stamps, and people checking their veracity, and there's definitely some situations in the story where we question whether a seal is legitimate. The most famous is, of course, the fairly contemporary example of the pink letter received by Jon at the end of A Dance with Dragons. The point being, having a stamp and a seal doesn't necessarily mean much. Tyrion then speaks of killing people, cutting down bigger men, and having people scream his name in battle, though the latter part is only true if we consider his nickname Half-Man as his name. And this was true at both the Green Fork and the Blackwater, and of course the yelling of Half-Man once again reminds us of Chem, who knew Tyrion's nickname for some reason, perhaps because he was near him at the Blackwater. Tyrion then sarcastically calls the glory of battle a fine, rich wine that he wants more of. Of course, Tyrion doesn't actually want to see another battle, and this is to contrast him with Victarion, who is eager to drink in death and glory. Now, these aren't the only times that glory in battle is compared to wine. Euron famously says that there is no wine half so sweet as wine taken from a beaten foe. And in the Forsaken chapter, which is fairly contemporary to this, Euron's men are drinking wine beneath corpses. It seems that glory in battle always comes at the price of death for someone else, and the fine rich wine that Tyrion speaks of does evoke the imagery of blood. The stranger had mounted his pale mare and was riding towards them with his sword in hand, but Tyrion Lannister did not care to meet with him today. Not now, not yet, not this day. What a fraud you are, imp. You let 100 guardsmen rape your wife, shot your father through the belly with a quarrel, twisted a golden chain around your lover's throat until her face turned black. Yet somehow you think you deserve to live. So here we get Tyrion speaking of how the stranger, that is Death, has mounted his pale mare and is coming for him. The stranger, of course, evokes apocalyptic imagery. In the Book of Revelation, Death, one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, rides a pale horse. The contemporary events of our story are littered with references to Revelation, by the way. Meereen has been inflicted with pestilence, Winterfell with famine. Jon breaks a seal and reads "Come see" from someone he thinks is a beast. There is no obvious structure to these parallels that we can use to predict events, but the language is there to give us the feeling that these are epic battles. Now, besides being Death from Revelation, the Stranger is also a stand-in for Barristan. Barristan is on a literal pale horse riding towards him, and Barristan was just trying to convince everyone to fight and die in war after praying to the Stranger himself. The one ironic thing about Barristan being the Stranger that Tyrion speaks of is that Barristan is not a stranger to Tyrion. Tyrion knows Barristan very well, as the two lived in the Red Keep together for years. The passage then has Tyrion admit that, though he wants to live, he doesn't deserve to after the crimes he's committed, allowing Tysha to be raped, killing Tywin, killing Shae. Again, we bundle the women of Tyrion's life here. Tysha and Shae are mentioned in the same breath, and in the coming sentence, we actually have Penny come in. And this is a good place to stop. We will continue on in Tyrion 2 Part 3. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.